Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us at Rookery Bay Research Reserve. I am Sarah Falkowski, and I am happy to present our Finding Fish EDscursion live from the field. So just a couple of housekeeping things before we begin. This is in webinar format, so we know that you're out there, but we can't see you and we can't hear you. So we want you to talk to us through the chat box. And that is the little icon at the bottom of your screen on the black toolbar. You can write things in the chat box like where you're from, what you need help with, if you're having trouble seeing or hearing us, any kind of customer service type stuff. And in the box to the left of that, where it's called Q&A, we want you to put in questions that you have for our presenters today, because at the end, we're going to answer those questions. And in the box, you will actually see, as soon as someone puts one in, a thumbs up symbol right next to the questions. That's called upvoting. So we would love it if you would click your favorite questions so that in the event that we have so many questions we can't answer them all, we know which ones are the favorite. So go ahead and try that. So I am so excited to share with you the team, the ed team that is in the field. But first I want to tell you where we are. So we are part of a national network. So all of the National Estuarine Research Reserves around the country are on this map, and we are located right here, kind of diagonal to the O in Gulf of Mexico in Southwest Florida. We know that you guys are joining from all over the country and even all over the world. And this video is being recorded and it will be posted on our website just after the presentation. You'll also receive the link in an email so you can share it with even more people. Within Florida, we are part of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection in the Office of Resilience and Coastal Protection. And together we protect 4 million acres throughout the state. More specifically, here is a map of Rookery Bay Research Reserve. So this yellow star right here is the location of the Environmental Learning Center, which I'm really happy to announce will be reopening on Monday. And we are so excited because we've actually been closed for 14 months. So we will be open on May 17th. So come visit us at the Environmental Learning Center. Check out our website for more details. On this map, you'll notice this yellow boundary. This is the boundary of all of the 110,000 acres that Rookery Bay manages. And as you can see, we go out here, and then this diagonal line in the lower right corner is actually bordering Everglades National Park. So it's about 37 miles as the crow flies from one corner to the other. And today our team is actually out in this area here on Tiger Tail Beach. So we are going to go live to our field cam momentarily. But first, I want to introduce my colleague, Janine, who is actually on the back end with me in the office. And we're going to be handling all the customer service type questions and things like that. Okay, Janine, tell us what's up.
All right, welcome everyone. This is so exciting. It's our final Finding Fish. So I do hope that some of you have participated in the months past and seen these really amazing places that we've gone in this research reserve to collect and ID and share different fish. It's been really fun. And yes, like Sarah said, today we are out at Tiger Tail Lagoon, and I am going to share with you a few things before we go out to the field that will just help you understand maybe the collection method we're using today and the location, how that will affect what we catch. All right, so the first thing I'm going to share is this fun video of the collection method you'll see today, which is seining. And I'm going to play it for you and just kind of narrate the scene here. So a beautiful seagrass bed, just panned over. And this is a really unique location, right kind of on the edge of our border. You know, you've got residents right nearby, but this beautiful estuarine lagoon to enjoy and recreate in and sample. So, you know, here we've got our staff pulling the net, and you'll see those floats up at the top as the net hangs vertically. It's actually weighted down. by weights on the bottom. And it's used to enclose fish, and you can bring them right up on shore like you're seeing here. However, there are other methods that we're going to get into when we get to the field. And then, you bring your catch up on shore, or you enclose it in the water. And that is where we find our fish, and we look to see which ones we want to show if we're working with a group or a live excursion, or if we're just IDing to see, what's here and what's not. And that changes seasonally. So that's just a quick little video. And then I have a few other things that I wanted to share too, because we're going to be using kind of a certain language as we introduce these fish to you. And let's see if I can make my screen cooperate. The Zoom stuff hides the screen. All right. That's not it.
It looks good, Jen.
Well, it would if I had the right, here it is. This is the one. Can you see this one?
The guide species, oh, we lost it.
Here. All right, this is the one we want to see. All right, so while we're out in the field, you're going to hear our other team members reference certain language about the fish, because we're not going to just tell you what these are. When we're finding fish, we're finding out about fish. So we're using these context clues. We're using visual clues about their body shape. So you're going to hear them referencing those details before either they tell you what the fish's name is, or maybe even we try to have you guess what we're looking at. So, this will help you understand, is this fish a fast swimmer? Is it going to be able to get out of here at a low tide quickly? Are they compressed and maybe dwelling on the bottom, right? Needing to use camouflage to hide into our muddy bottom here. Maybe they have a different pattern that is going to be great for seagrass. We just saw the seagrass beds there. So all of these details, kind of tell you the life story of a fish. Another area they're going to be pointing out is the mouth shape. So where are these fish feeding? Right in front, are they active feeders, shooting and darting, sprinting to catch things right in front of them? Are they searching for things up on the top? And maybe that will also imply their coloration, certain shading, is how they do this. And then I mentioned speed already. So sometimes, just looking at the shape of a tail or the caudal fin is going to tell us, is this a fast fish, a slow fish, a sprinter? Do they go the distance or not so much? And I did mention camouflage. So whether that's bars, whether that's the cryptic coloration, or just, the bright silver scales of a fish, they all, have a reason, and they allow these fish to forage and to have a certain lifestyle, we'll say, evade predators or be a great predator. And then we do have just some odd shaped fish that I think we got a couple of today, and we're going to show you, with other adaptations so that they're able to survive. So without, I think, further explanation from me, I think we need to get right to the field and get a look at our beautiful Tiger Tail Lagoon that the girls have been out in today. Field cam, are you ready?
Oh, look at
we
that.
are ready. Good morning, everybody.
Nice.
All right, so how's our video? How's our audio? We looking good?
Excellent.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on our last Finding Fish excursion. And today was a great one. You'll get to see all the cool stuff that we caught. But my name is Morgan. I'm on the ed team here at Rookery Bay, and I'm joined by a few other staff members. My fellow educator will introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Dita, and I'm so excited to kind of share what we caught, because we caught some fun things today.
And we even have a special guest. I'll let her introduce herself. Our communications coordinator, Amy, is here. She helped us pull the net.
Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm having a great time. It's so much fun out here.
All right.
Hi.
Awesome. We definitely needed that third person here today because Dita, this seine is a little bit different than the one we saw in the video. Can you start to describe it a little bit for us and how we used it?
Yeah, so right behind me, you can see this lovely seine net, and there happens to be this really weird hump in the middle of the seine net, and that's because this is a bag seine. So when we're pulling this in the water, just like we did in that video, we actually come together, and there's another pull that's used to kind of funnel all the fish into that bag. So the fish never leave the water. They go straight from that bag into a bucket. It helps us not have to bring them up on shore, and we can even just sort the fish while they're in that bag in the water. So
Wow.
it does help with that survivorship a little bit.
That is amazing. So, like all of our educators have been telling us, this is a shallow lagoon full of wonderful mud and other things. Why did we choose the seine here?
So we love to seine in this lagoon because they're surrounded by all those wonderful mangroves in the background. When those leaves fall off, they break down. They add all those wonderful nutrients into this lovely squishy mud, making wonderful, wonderful, wonderful source of food for lots of different animals and plants that live in here. And a big part of those plants are seagrass. This is actually one of our larger plots of seagrass that we have near the reserve. And so because that seagrass is here, lots of animals use that as a habitat, and often they're young animals as well.
Wow, that is so cool. So speaking of animals, that's why we're here. We want to find the fish. We're going to show you all the cool stuff that we caught today. And we're going to start with a few animals that really rely on that seagrass habitat. But we're not going to tell you what they are. We want you to guess. All right, so we're going to start here.
Morgan, I know there are a lot of students joining. We encourage everyone, whether you're a school student or a forever learning adult at home, maybe in your pajamas in your living room, we participate in this little game.
All right, so without further ado, here is specimen number 1, or specimens.
Whoa.
Specimens.
Any guesses on what is in that container? It's not some delicious soup.
All right, do we have anyone who's brave? This is not algae.
Come on. No, not yet.
Ooh.
Go
Oh,
ahead
it's
and
not
type your
algae,
answer
okay.
right in the chat box. Oh, we have a really good guess.
Ooh.
So Megan said shrimp. These are shrimp?
Whoa. A lot of them. Dita, what are we looking at here?
So in this container are probably 200 at least grass shrimp. And I say that term loosely because I have not ID'd them down to the specific species. But these shrimp are a huge part of our seagrass beds because they provide a huge food source for all those young fish that are coming in there and hiding. So a lot of them, we can even see that there's some gravid eggs on these shrimp. And again, they're making their home in our shoalgrass that we have here and Morgan has on her hand. And that seagrass is actually a true flowering plant. So just like flowers in your mom's garden, it produces a flower underwater and it has a root system. So these seagrasses are really protected down here because not only are they providing habitat for all those grass shrimp, they also are putting a lot of oxygen into that water and help stabilizing the sediment in there. So it's really, really important plant to have in our estuary.
Wow. So, Dita, I know we are going to kick this off with our first fish, and it's going to be kind of an odd looking fish, but it really depends on our seagrass, right?
Yeah, and for those who have attended in the past, should have a leg up with this one.
Ooh.
If you have any guesses, you can put in the chat what you think it is.
It looks just like a piece of seagrass.
Yeah, which is a really, really, really good adaptation for this fish. Since it is odd-bodied, it's not built for speed at all. This fish is going to be relying on camouflage to keep itself safe. So it does look like that blade of seagrass. You can just kind of wiggle in there and hope that a predator can't see it, but doesn't mean they can't necessarily smell them. Has a rounded tail. I don't know if it's going to cooperate and show you that tail.
Is it related to any other fish that maybe people are more familiar with?
Yeah, are we getting any guesses for the fish in the chat?
One just came in.
Ooh.
Pipefish.
Exactly. So this is a pipefish that we have talked about before, actually, but since we had all those shrimp, all that seagrass, we wanted to highlight it again because even though I get really excited about shrimp and it was really fun pulling up a whole bag of shrimp, this fish is going to be relying on those little teeny tiny baby plankton shrimp to eat for food. So this is kind of a more charismatic resident in our seagrass. And they are related to seahorses. So the males are good dads, just like the seahorses. They protect those eggs and keep care of them until they hatch. And that is our chain pipefish.
Nice. Wow. That is so cool. And I cannot believe someone guessed. I feel like that is the first time we've had someone guess the actual name. That's wonderful. So we're going to keep going with this odd body fish shape because we got a lot of them today. And I'm going to turn it over. This one almost escaped us, and Diva's going to tell us why.
So Morgan did not bring some of her breakfast with us. It's not a pancake.
This is not a waffle or a pancake.
A lovely little fish that is pretty specialized for living on the bottom of our habitats. So this particular species loves living here in our estuaries, can be found some other locations as well. But that extremely flat body means it's not going to be an overly fast swimmer. It's going to be staying on the bottom. And even though it stays on the bottom as an adult, when it is young, when it's just that set of its egg, it looks like a regular fish. And it has an eye on either side of its head. But then the eye moves over to one side and it becomes totally flat. So the two eyes are on top of its head. And that's really important because it's going to be like that pipefish relying on camouflage to get its food. So it's going to be sitting on the bottom, has its two eyes sticking up on top of its head, and it's going to be looking for all those little shrimp, maybe little teeny fish, and jumping up and swimming up and catching them.
That is so cool. And there are a few types of flatfish. How did we know that this particular flatfish was what it was?
So I'm calling it a flatfish, and that does include flounder, halibut. If you've ever seen those in restaurants, this is in that same group of fish, but this is a much smaller one. And this one is actually a lined sole. And there are two species down here that look very, very similar. They do have different salinity tolerance. So this one likes a little bit saltier water. But when you look at the dorsal or the top side of it, it has a very, very, very small pecten. So that's how you ID it. So even though looking at it, it can look very similar to that hog choker, you got to look for some of those little subtle details to identify fish.
And that just goes to show field ID with fish is extremely difficult. So we're doing our best out here, but normally if we were professionally trying to identify these fish, we'd take them back to the lab and really get into them, make sure we know what we're talking about. Speaking of know what we're talking about, we're going to switch over a little bit from our odd shaped fish to a couple comparisons, because we got a few fish that are really similar looking and easily confused. Again, field ID. But we're going to switch over to talk about these critters here right now.
Almost the one that wanted to escape.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'm loving the birds in the background that we're hearing. So we got some cardinal friends, maybe chirping real loud.
It's very biodiverse.
You guys just missed the gravid blue crab that made its way back into the lagoon. It's feisty. It's a Friday, right?
So two lovely fish are obviously not very happy with their blue background. But these are very adapted to life in our estuary. You'll notice they're a very pale color. They're not really showy with their coloration, but they're actually two different species of fish, even though they look very, very similar. So the one on the bottom, I believe I'm talking about Oregon, has no barring and have a little bit more of a rounded nose versus the one on the top. I don't know if it's going to be cooperative for us, but if he does decide to swim into frame, you'll notice it has some pretty dark barrings, and actually its tail is pretty dark. So I'm talking about using color to identify those fish, and that's really probably the last thing I should be using to identify fish, because fish can change color depending on their mood, where they are in the breeding cycle, depending on their habitat, even they can change color. But with these two, I did mention I was looking at that nose shape and some of those other key characteristics like those barring. Those are good indicators that these are two different species.
Now, do these two fish feed the same way? What's up with their mouth?
Yeah, so their mouth is pretty much a terminal mouth, so it's facing forward. They're both going to be eating things that are pretty much right in front of them. So they're swimming usually more towards the surface, plucking off little plankton, little shrimp, smaller fish again, looking for their food. And they are estuary specialists. They can handle huge salinity changes. They can survive in probably 15 parts per thousand, so way less than saltwater, all the way up to hypersaline, so meaning it's more salty than the ocean. We're talking about, sorry, there's playing.
Yeah, we got some air traffic. Forgive us.
Oh, okay.
Dita, we're kind of having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, we had a nice low flying aircraft.
Everybody wants to find fish with you.
These fish again they can survive in hypersaline environments. So that means it's more salty than the ocean. Like think 40, 50 parts per thousand. These fish are fine because when they're trapped back in the mangrove roots, the tide goes out, the water's evaporating, it's going to get more salty, and these fish are fine. So we do have the one with the barring is a long-nosed killifish, and it's actually a little bit more in its breeding plumage. It's more colorful than we usually see it. And then the lower one is a Gulf killifish.
Wow, I'm sure everyone in the audience knew that. So we are just gonna put these guys down because they were trying to jump out of our container here. So that was a great point Dita made. A lot of these fish that hang out in our estuaries have to be hardy, really tough animals because, man, these conditions change. It's such a dynamic environment. So they got to be well adapted to survive that. All right, Dita, I think we've got a few more fish to talk about. I mean, we killed it today. We saw so many different fish. And like you guys saw earlier, the shrimp, in crazy numbers.
A buffet.
Right.
And there's someone feeding in the background even.
Yeah, so anybody want to put in the chat what kind of birds you think that is? Or birds? I don't know if you can see.
Plural.
All of them.
Oh, just one right now, but it's been moving back and forth.
Yeah, so we've had 3 snowy egrets kind of staking out our seine because even though we do limit the amount of time we pull it, and again, it has this bag, so we're trying to keep the fish in the water as much as possible, there is a little bit of mortality with it, and that's primarily with the next fish we're going to talk about, and that's who these lovely birds are taking advantage of because they are not silly and they know that they can get free food, and it's, tough job being a bird, and it's getting to breeding season.
Yeah, this fish, we talked about a lot of hardy fish, not quite the case. Dita, let's talk about this one. We found a lot of fish that look just like this. Why is that?
So this fish and another one very similar to it are a really, really important bait fish down here. They have a forked tail. They're going to be constantly cruising through the water, eating plankton, eating the little teeny microscopic plants and animals in the water. Since they are swimming pretty consistently, it means they're not exactly the hardiest fish, and they move in and out of this lagoon with the tide, following the currents, moving with the plankton as they get shifted in those currents as well. So definitely on the lower scale with the amount of hardiness for this species, but still really, really, really important.
Wow, and I noticed right off the bat, its eyeball is humongous.
Yeah, so again, this is a bait fish, and that term is used really, really loosely when you're talking about fish. That just means it's a fish that other fish like to eat. So bait fish often have very, very large predominant eyes, help them avoid predators. And this little guy, another way to avoid predators is with that coloration, right, Morgan?
Absolutely. So the silver coloration, that indicates to me it's a schooling fish. And like Dita said, with that big eyeball and this forked tail, you can expect this fish to be fast. Oh yeah, that's a good shot of the tail.
Nice.
This is actually a striped anchovy, I believe. There's another smaller one that's a bay anchovy, but this one you can see that pretty distinctive stripe going down its body. And they do actually shed their scales when we catch them, so they're kind of pretty. And we did catch one that was very, very similar to it, but it has a slightly pointier nose. So especially when you're dealing with these smaller fish, the field ID can be a little tricky. So this is that silver side, has a slightly more pointy nose. See the big eye again, the silver coloration, but it also has a slightly yellow tail. So.
Wow.
And that's what, I don't know if you heard the splashy, but we definitely have some larger fish in there. Maybe they're snook or redfish cruising these seagrass beds behind us and trying to catch some of these bait fish and killi fish unawares.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So we have talked about some shrimp. We saw some odd shaped fish. We saw some killi fish that are really hardy, some bait fish that are not so hardy. But now we're going to wrap it up with an animal that I'm sure you all are not expecting. Okay, this is not a fish. Does anyone have a guess like what we're going to show you before we show you? It could be anything, really. All right. No, it's not a shark. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Ooh, I can't wait for the guesses to roll in.
It looks really weird. Like, is it a dinosaur?
It's been
Might
around
as well
a
be.
long time.
We have a few guesses coming in. If you're still typing, oh, someone just wrote, it's so cute. That's the best guess yet.
That is correct.
Young one. Or
Megan in Pittsburgh, you are correct. It is so cute. Thank you.
So
People
punked
know
you
what
all.
this is.
Yeah, we've got
all.
some guesses for the correct ID.
So if this was a live animal, I probably couldn't manipulate it like I am right now. But Dita, why is this animal not moving?
So this is actually just a molt. So just like when humans, when we grow, we shed a little bit of our skin, you know, at a time here and there. A lot of other invertebrates will shed their skin or their exoskeleton all at once. So in the case of this animal, when it molts, it sheds its skin, it's going to crawl out the front. And I don't know if Morgan can demonstrate it, but when you find them on the beach, you can actually tell if it's a dead animal or a molt by able to open up the very front of it. So I know this is a molt. So this was alive, exoskeleton got too small, crawled out, left it behind.
But what is it?
So this is a horseshoe crab, and they are absolutely awesome. They've been around since the dinosaurs. Very, very ancient body plan that's been very, very successful. And we do find them fairly consistently here in this lagoon. Different sizes. Usually we do see the smaller ones. We don't see the gigantic ones that you might see up in the pictures in the mid-Atlantic.
Wow, that is so awesome.
And while it is called a horseshoe crab, it is not related to that blue crab that I was planning. It was like perfectly phrased. I could point out to you, and it went away. So this is not a true crab. It's actually closer related to arachnids and scorpions than a crab. So it's kind of in a different group of arthropods, but still pretty cool. Still has that hard exoskeleton. They actually have a lot of eyes on top. And they use that tail not to sting us, but that's actually to help them flip over when they get turned upside down. So
It's pretty cool if you ever get to see one right itself. It's pretty impressive.
Is there a fun name for that tail?
you'll have to tell us, Janine.
The Telson.
The Telson.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's a fun name. You know, name your dog it. Telson.
And then this little guy is eating food here as well. And instead of looking for necessarily like fish, be fast enough to catch fish, it's going to be looking for little clams and other foraging on dead stuff on the bottom. It's stuff you can dig around in the mud.
That's so cool.
And this is actually one reason why, if you are visiting this lagoon area, we do recommend that you do wear some sort of shoe or, water shoe, just because they do have some spines on their back, help them protect themselves. And it can be a little pokey.
All right. So we're just going to wrap it up with, again, a non-fish, but that's okay because you never know what we're going to find in this lagoon. And this might look a little bit more familiar than these fish have.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have an idea of what I'm holding up in my hand? And these are alive. No molts here with these.
No deaths.
No death here.
Man, I feel like there could be a couple different critters living inside there.
Definitely.
All right. So in this case, Dita, we observed these before we got on film with you all. So we know that there's one particular animal living in this in this little house here. Right now though, what are we looking at?
These are crown conchs, and they are a type of snail. And all those lovely shells, you know, the jingles, maybe lightning whelks are going to collect on the beach side or the beaches anywhere here in Florida. Those were all made by a snail. And these shells are attached to their body. They grow with them as the animal grows. They actually are born with them. So when they're drifting around sometimes as plankton, you can actually see the little shell on them. Or they come out of their egg sac already with that shell attached to them. It's there. So when that shell is removed, that means the animal's dead. They can't survive without that shell. So all the shells on the beach were made by an animal, which is pretty cool.
So is all hope lost when this empty shell is on the beach and we don't find it because our eyes aren't that good? Is there another animal that could utilize this empty shell?
Definitely. So, you know, nothing is wasted in nature. And so when these snails do die, either, you know, a bird's consumed them, a larger snail, when something's eaten them, they leave behind that really nice protective shell. And there is a group of crustaceans that have specialized into making that into their home. And those are the hermit crabs. So they're super weird crabs because their back end is actually really soft and they would get eaten very, very quickly if they didn't have a snail shell to move into. We do have a lot of different species of hermit crabs down here. We actually saw one during our practice thing last week, and they do utilize different species of snail shell depending on their size and actually depending on the species too.
Wow, man, I don't know. If you all haven't been here, I feel like you have to come out and experience this lagoon for everything that it has to offer. The birds, the amazing wildlife, the fish, the invertebrates, and everything in between. So we so appreciate you guys coming out with us virtually today to Tiger Tail and Finding Fish for our last Finding Fish excursion. So now we're going to turn it back over to our educators in the office, and they're just going to show you some close-up pictures of maybe a few things that we saw today, and then wrap it up with you all, giving you an idea of what's coming next.
Great. You know what I love, Sarah, is that some of those critters are found right in our estuary encounter at the Learning Center, right?
And we are so excited to be able to share it with you. For 14 months, we've been doing virtual programs where we're with the animals, bringing them virtually to your living room, but we can't wait until you can come and see them in person.
Yes, horseshoe crabs, snails, hermit crabs, fish. So we're just so excited for the public to come and enjoy that again. And
we are. We've
Morgan's
been doing
right.
so much to get ready.
So much. Morgan's right. I'm going to show you just some photos that we've taken as we've collected fish over the years, you know, a little bit more up close, some of the species that, you know, we showed you today and that you learned about, hopefully. All right. So zoom in here. We only actually saw 2 of these killifish today, but there's quite a variety. So all of these actually we have found at that location, Tiger Tail Lagoon. So our rainwater killi, the Gulf killifish today, they showed you. So kind of more of a drab color. I mean, they can be really golden and beautiful actually. But compared to the long-nosed killifish down here, you know, that's how you could separate them. Today, Dita mentioned that, you know, they're breeding, so it's a little more colorful than normal. Those bars more defined, and that longer nose. But we also do see the gold-spotted killifish and the sheep's head killifish there as well. Some other fun critters. Look at all these great fish that we get to collect and see pretty much almost every time we go there. So here was another comparative that we did with the silver side versus the bay anchovy. So remember that silver side had the yellow coloration on the tail. They're both deeply forked, those tails. So we know, hey, these are fast swimmers. You got that large eye, that coloration that helps them blend in, you know, as a schooling fish. And we saw the striped anchovy, but there's also the bay anchovy. So the striped anchovy, just a little more prominent line, thicker and solid line across the body there. But those are great bait fish, like Dita mentioned. And we did see one of the 3 different varieties of pipefish that we find there regularly. So we witnessed the chain pipefish today. This is a picture of a Gulf pipefish, but that long kind of odd shaped body. And the one that you saw had actually a much longer snout than the Gulf pipefish shown here. So that's a nice way for us to, in the field quickly tell the difference. And I love this one because it's nicely circled here. We saw a lined sole today. And another one that we commonly catch there called a hog choker. These 2 are very difficult, like the field team mentioned, to tell apart. And you have to look really closely on this flat little fish, that little pancake for that pec fin. So that's what they is circled here, very hidden. But that's kind of how you would tell the difference, right? Between your hog choker and your line sole right out there in the field when you're dealing with a small specimen like that. But we like to show you those photos because, the camera, as great as it is, can't always give you those details. So with that, I'm going to let Sarah just tell you a little bit more about what we have going on, and then we'll answer your questions.
Perfect. I just wanted to go back to the map. Now that you saw what it looks like where the team was, this is what it looks like on the map again. So let me just move my toolbar. So where the team was is in this area here. So this is Marco Island, this island here, and they were right here. So they drove down Collier Boulevard and they went to the beach, and the part where they were in the lagoon is kind of in this section here. So you can see it's a really cool area and it has a lot of really cool animals. So that's not all. We have so much more to offer. So our EDscursions are continuing this summer. So our next one is going to take place, not next Friday, but the Friday after, and it's called Native Biodiversity in the Reserve, Plants and Animals. So you can see there on the left, there's a picture of Janine as we were filming for another program. And you're going to get to meet the stewardship team. You're going to get to meet the education team. And we're actually going to be broadcasting from 3 different locations, which is really cool. In the virtual world, we can do that. When we're in person, everyone is in one place. So it's really, really been neat to see how far we can get and how far we can reach people and where you're from. So that being said, I wanted to mention that when you end today, there will be a survey that pops up on your screen. We hope you'll take a few minutes to put in where you're located, because the bean counters find it really interesting that we're reaching people as far away as Singapore. So if you're on from Singapore, please tell us. I know we have some people in Pittsburgh and Minnesota, but even if you're in Naples, we want to know that too. So join us on May 28th. On the right side of the screen where the text is yellow, that is our summer series. So in case you didn't know, you can actually pick up your cell phone right now and act like you're going to take a picture of that QR code down at the bottom where it says register now, and it will automatically go to our website where you can register for programs. But I happen to also already have it in the chat box, so you can just click there. And that is a calendar of all of our programs, because it's not just virtual. We are having summer camp. We are so excited. We have special permission because we are going to follow all CDC rules in June and July, whatever they might be at the time. And we are having summer camp, which will be our first in-person program with students that we're really excited to get back to. And we have lots of other programs too that you'll see at that link. So I think we have a bunch of questions to answer. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can get to those questions. And don't forget to click the thumbs up symbol next to the questions that you want to see answered. And if you're having trouble with the Q&A box, you can just put them right in the chat box too. So I think we'll transition over to questions. Janine's going to moderate, and our field cam is there to answer questions too. We just can't see them because they're cleaning up. All right, let's see what we've got. You're muted, Janine.
There, I see Morgan and Dita, they're back. Awesome.
Awesome.
So I wanted to, we did answer a couple right in person, which was really great, about the horseshoe crab. That was so fun. What is the most exciting thing that you have caught at Tiger Tail Lagoon, or actually seining in general, you know, for this collection method?
Sorry.
Well, we are just full of excitement here this morning, still sorting our fish, trying to figure out what we're going to bring back for our aquaria. I feel like the coolest thing that we've caught out here is a snook, and it's because they are so fast. I can hardly believe that we caught them. So that was me. What about you, Dita? It's hard to
It's like the
pick.
worst question. I was really excited when we've been getting needlefish, which are one of those fish that we shouldn't really be able to catch in this method because needlefish are jumpers. And usually they jump over the net and we don't get them. But we did actually catch a needlefish last time we sang, which was really fun.
So cool.
Nice. So with the size net that you're using, can you catch different fish, or maybe the size of the actual netting? Will that determine, what you get?
Definitely. So the bigger net you have, the more stuff you're going to catch. It's going to let you catch bigger stuff because then you can sneak up on them. But the problem with that, if you have a really fine mesh like we do, you're catching everything. So if we had a net that was, double this length, we already were kind of, up to our eyeballs in shrimp. And I would not want to see what would have happened if we had the same size net. We would have had way too many fish. That being said, if you have a larger mesh size, which is actually what FWC does, they use really, 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 really big versions of this called whole seine that are 600 feet and takes 4 people to pull.
Oh my goodness.
And that's how they're sampling sport fish, your snook, pompano, permit, unfortunately stingrays sometimes. And that's how they're helping to come up with the regulation. But they have a much larger mesh.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember reading that they used horses at some time because of how long and big, to pull them up on the shore. So you ladies really got a workout this morning, I bet.
Oh, we did, especially with all those shrimp. We didn't think we could handle it. That was crazy.
So do you need a special permit for this? Can anybody just do this?
Well, we don't recommend it. So first of all, you would have to have this very specialized piece of gear and know how to use it. But technically you don't need a permit to use a seine net. What you do have to abide by though are FWC's rules in terms of bag limits, size limits, all those things. And we're allowed to take fish back to our aquariums because, hey, we've got that special permit to use them for education. So when we caught all this cool stuff that we need for our learning center, we're going to put it in a bucket and transport it back. But think about it. If you were to remove all of these teeny tiny fish just for fun and leave them on the beach and say, I'm sorry, that was great, like, let's go home. Think about the impact you're having to this environment. All those little fish, even if they're not, these crazy sport fish like snook, they're still contributing to the greater food web. So you don't want to take them out if you don't have to.
That is a great point. I think there was a question about seasonality. So I know we've been collecting fish, for all of our excursions, and gosh, we're not quite into the summer rains yet, but do you expect that there would be different fish as it does come into our rainy season, or does the tide matter?
It's huge, most definitely huge. I mean, even just from week to week, we see different things here. Last time we did not get this many shrimp. So obviously something changed that now there are shrimp everywhere. The tides are going to be bringing in those bait balls, the fish that are going to be actively following those plankton blooms and coming in and out. Depending on that breeding season, water temperature is definitely huge, but a big part are when fish are reproducing. And different fish use different cues when they're going to reproduce. So like sea trout are really particular about a certain salinity when they release their eggs. And so that's one reason why we love doing seining and trawling and just sampling what fish we have, because it's constantly changing depending on all those parameters that come along with the water quality changes due to time of year and the tide.
Nice, thanks for that. I couldn't agree more. That it changes all the time. And that's why we collect all this great data, right? And we can look back on it throughout the year. So do people kayak there? Are there boats in the area? Someone wanted to know about Tiger Tail. It looks like you could probably kayak there, but it's so shallow. The girls mentioned how shallow it is. So not for boating at this location.
Nope, you can bring in your own kayak, right? Or rent a kayak here. And then you can
I'm not sure. You can definitely bring your own.
Yep. And you can cross through and go check out the beach on the other side.
And then I think we can end on this last question. These two, they're kind of related, but could you, either of you, both of you, tell us maybe your background, what degree you got, or like, how did you know you wanted to do this? This looks so much fun.
It is fun. Amy says it's fun.
It's
She's
more-
a first timer, so trust that. That was great.
It's more fun than the computer all day.
I think we're all out of this tech world, very sick of the computer. But for me, I am not a Florida native. I wish I could say I was, because I love it so much. But I got a degree in biology. I went to school in Ohio. Crazy, I know. But I did an internship with Rookery Bay, and I drank the Kool-Aid, and I've been hooked ever since 2018. I really never left. But the amount of learning and experience that you can get just by being here and immersing yourself in it, it's second to none. There's no word to put on it how amazing it is and how great of a place that we're able to protect, and we get paid to do it. Like, I would do it for free. So what about you, Dita?
I'm again a Florida transplant. So I'm from Minnesota, actually. And my degree is in general biology. I really was focusing on animal behavior, but moved down to Florida. And this is an amazing spot because you get to really help take all that science and, pass it on to the next generation that we're looking for to help, carry on the science in the future. So it's a great opportunity to kind of experience the science and then also pass it on to the next generation. So. And working with kids.
Your passion shows. We love it. And we're so glad that y'all could be out there. Thanks, Amy, for your help. And Sarah, I think we're ready to pack this away.
That's it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You'll be receiving an email momentarily with the link to see today's video, as well as all of the videos that we've recorded previously. So if we don't see you on another virtual program soon, we hope that you'll come and visit the Environmental Learning Center. We're really excited to be back. I put the link in the chat box so you can learn about all of our safety precautions and the rules and the hours and the admission rates and things like that. So keep going out there and exploring, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.